Welcome to Combat Zone 360, where we discuss everything military. Today on our show, we have the 152nd Brooklyn Memorial Day Parade. Ray and Connie, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for inviting us.
Yes. So if you guys can, I know you both are veterans, and this show is really based on our veteran community and to educate people about our veteran community. If you guys can, I would love to find out a little bit about where you guys came from. I know you both are originally from New York City. So if you could talk about kind of where you came from, how you grew up a little bit, and we'll start off with you, Ray.
Sure. Born and bred in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. I went to 12 years, almost 16 years of Catholic school. I really was a Brooklyn boy. I left Brooklyn for the first time, got on a plane and went to Lackland Air Force Base in Texas when I enlisted in the Air Force in 1967. Vietnam was hitting hard for everybody, and I decided that I wanted to volunteer. So I went down and volunteered and went to Lackland. And it was one of the best decisions I ever made.
Nice.
I spent 4 years in the Air Force. And while I was in the Air Force, I traveled all over the place. I wasn't in the planes like some guys, you know, where they fly around. But I was on the flight line. So I think I had, in 4 years, I think I had 5 different duty stations. They sent me to Okinawa. I was there for a year, and they sent me to Korea a couple of times, for months at a time on TDY. Most people don't know what TDY is, but it's temporary duty.
Yes, right? Yes.
And that opened up my eyes. I went to Korea, and I thought I was going to the Orient. I went to Okinawa. I thought I was going to the Orient.
Okay.
First thing I saw on the bus when I was going to the barracks was a A&W root beer stand. So that really wasn't the Orient to me, but I was glad that they sent me to Korea. We were 200 miles south of Seoul. We were stationed at a Korean air base, and that was pretty much a revelation to see how they dealt with their soldiers as compared to the way they dealt with us.
Yeah.
You know? I really didn't play sports in grammar school or high school because I had some eye issues. Mm-hmm. So when I went to basic training, it was quite open-minded because like it was crazy, you know, running all over the place.
Yeah.
And I was lucky to get through basic training because I was a little guy. I was only about 136 pounds at the time.
Wow.
So I got through that, and that opened it up to going all around the world and experiencing a few things.
Nice.
A guy from Brooklyn, you know, you meet a whole bunch of men and women. At the time, there weren't no women. Meet a whole bunch of men from all around the country. Everybody has, you know, their own background, but we all had similar goals. Mm-hmm. You know, we all wanted to do well, and that's what the military instilled in you at that time, and they still do. You know, they break you down, and you become a unit, and that's something that, like, I think every veteran can say that, you know, they fall back on every once in a while when they look back. I mean, it was 52 years ago, I think, when I was in the military. And from, you know, I still fold my underwear.
You still have it 6 inches and rolled up and everything.
That's right. That's right. You know, I find it's an easier way to store it in the drawer.
There you go.
Yeah,
so what did you do in the Air Force? What was your job? What was your job description?
I don't remember the MOS number, but I was an aerospace ground equipment repairman.
Okay.
And I worked on the flight line, and we worked on all the equipment, all those yellow pieces of equipment that they hook up to the airplane. And what that did was that if there was a problem with the plane up in the air, when they hit the ground, they would explain it, say there was a hydraulic problem or a pneumatic problem. Well, they would call us, and we'd bring out either some type of a hydraulic piece of equipment or a pneumatic piece of equipment. And they would hook that up to the plane, and then we could simulate what happened up in the air and then fix it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you're one of those smart techie guys.
Well, I learned. I mean, you know, they sent me to a school in Chanute Air Force Base in Illinois, and it was really intense. It was really a great experience. And you know, before that, I fooled around with my car a little bit, but not like this.
No.
So I learned an awful lot about different things.
Yeah, I don't know if I would have been able to pass that. I was a grunt for 12 years, right there on the infantry.
Yeah.
I don't think I could do the techie stuff.
one thing, and they didn't have really techie stuff as we know it today. I mean, there was no internet or anything. But one thing was that we had a gas turbine compressor operator, gas turbine compressor unit that would hook up to the plane, and it would start the plane.
Oh, wow.
So when you hit the button, it was like a really low hum, and all of a sudden it built up. You had to wear earmuffs. It built up, and then it started the plane. It was crazy. You know, it was really a lot. You know, really good experience for me to get out of Brooklyn and to experience that.
Yeah. And what influenced you to get out of the Air Force?
I wanted to go back to school.
Okay.
You know, and I used up my GI Bill. So when I got out of high school, I went to St. John's University, downtown Brooklyn, and I did that for a little. It was like a community college at that time. They had a 2-year school downtown Brooklyn instead of the big campus out in Queens. So I went to that for a while, for 1 semester, and I didn't do very well.
Yeah.
So I decided I wasn't going to stay there and waste my parents' money. So I went to work for a little while, and like I said, you know, they were knocking on people's doors to draft them, and I decided to volunteer for the Air Force.
Okay.
I come from a background where my brothers, I have twin brothers. They were 13 years older than me, and they were like, you know, they were great. They were great guys, and they were in the Navy.
Yeah.
And right after the Korean War, and one guy flew off aircraft carriers with prop planes. So when they went off, they went down like that. And then, so he was the oldest. He was a minute older than my other brother, Eddie. And Eddie was in blimps,
Oh my God.
patrolling the shore, looking for Russian submarines and stuff.
Wow.
So, and that kind of explained their two personalities too.
Yeah.
Richie was like a guy who would jump off off aircraft carriers, and Eddie was a guy who was laid back and he just hung out in the blimps.
Just that smooth,
Yeah.
slow cruise in the air.
So they probably influenced me. And my father worked for the Brooklyn Navy Yard.
Okay.
So why I didn't go in the Navy, I don't know, because I love the water.
Yeah.
But a friend of mine, I think, talked me into going with him down to the Air Force recruiter.
Yeah.
The rest is history.
I had an old guest on the show that actually used to see that Navy Yard and
Yeah.
look out his window, and that was a big part. Actually, it was I forgot who it was at the time, but he said that was a big influence to him wanting to join the military.
Yeah, I remember going down. My dad would bring us down for, they were christened ships.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember seeing Lady Bird Johnson.
Yeah.
You know, they don't actually hit it with the bottle of champagne. They have a rope, and it swings and it hit the boat.
Yeah.
It didn't break. So
Isn't
they had to
that
do it
considered
again.
bad luck or something?
I guess. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, Connie, I know you've been sitting there very patiently. I know you didn't want to start off,
okay.
but you know you wanted Ray to go through and kind of break the ice. But if you could give us a little bit of history about yourself.
Okay, I'm the oldest of a family of four
Okay.
children, 4 siblings, and I would say like I should have been the boy in the family, the eldest. I have 2 sisters and a brother, but I was always mechanically inclined.
Okay.
And when I was in high school, I went to FDR High School, and the recruiters came, and I was a little interested. You know, I was into sports a lot. I did gymnastics, I did softball, I did fencing. So,
Fencing? Oh, that's great. I'm not going to get you mad at
and
me.
I did karate too. So I was into the sports, and I was interested. Like I took electrical shop in
Okay.
high school, so I kind of like that. So when the recruiter came and started talking about things, I said, you know, this sounds, you know, it's very interesting for me. My parents didn't like the idea of me going into service because
Most
they're
parents
like,
don't.
it was right like during the Vietnam War and stuff. But my father, you know, we were immigrants to this country. So, and my parents always loved this country so much. I had such a high respect, and it was always, you know, family, God, and country.
Yeah.
You know, so I went and took the test, and I scored very highly on the mechanical, electrical type of stuff. So
The stuff you like.
stuff I liked. Originally, they sent me to school. I went to school in Huntsville, Alabama. It was a NASA base.
Okay.
I went for I was a Pershing missiles electrician.
Wow.
Yeah, and I wasn't a U.S. citizen at the time, so they couldn't award me the job, the MOS.
Okay.
But I took my citizenship when they sent me to Fort Eustis to be a helicopter electrician. That's what I went for. So that was the second schooling that I got, and I got my citizenship in 1976 during the whole 1776 hoopla, you know,
Yeah.
the birthday. And so that was beautiful. I'll never forget that day becoming a U.S. citizen. It was like the most amazing thing. Virginia did such a beautiful thing during that whole celebration.
Yeah.
And it was like such an honor for me just to have it on that day, and it was great. So I went from Alabama to Virginia. Then they sent me to Germany.
Okay.
So I was in Germany. I was in the 394th Trans Unit. Half of my unit actually went to Vietnam. So and a lot of the aircraft that we used to work on was from Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked on those. I went to NCO Academy. I was ready to really kind of make it a career, and then there was a medical issue that I just said I can't deal with this anymore. I'm getting out.
Gotcha.
And so I came back to New York and went to school to the School of Aeronautics.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, no, I didn't go there yet. I went to Spartan School of Aeronautics in Oklahoma, and then before I went there, I met my husband. So that kind of changed my things, and then I came back to New York, and that's when I went to the School of Aeronautics, and then I graduated, and then I started to raise a family, and just like I wanted to still be involved in some of my camaraderie of veterans. So I joined the American Legion. I'm a dual member of the American Legion. I'm an American Legion and American Legion Auxiliary member.
Okay.
I also belong to the disabled American veterans,
Yep.
and the Vietnam veterans, and the Memorial Day Parade Committee.
You do a lot. You do a lot within the community. That's amazing.
And I drag my husband with me all the time. He's like the second volunteer.
Hey, we need him.
Yeah.
He does a great job, his husband.
Yeah.
Her husband does a great job.
Yeah, he does.
Now,
great support.
About the Memorial Day Parade, I understand that the Brooklyn Memorial Day Parade is the longest running Memorial Day Parade.
Continuous running.
Yes. Thank you. Continuous running. Yes. Could you guys give us a little bit of history about the parade?
Funny, I went down to the Brooklyn Library
Mm-hmm.
a couple of years ago. I was looking for some information about the parade. I wanted to find out if there was anything in any of the old newspapers. And I found something that said in 1866, members of the Grand Army of the Republic were going to have a meeting about what to do, because they had already been putting poppies on cemeteries.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody had done that. And I'm not any way stretch of form. I'm not a historian, so I don't want to like. But in any event, I found something. I didn't make a copy of it, But I've been back, and I have found some old articles about the parade. So from what we understand, 1967 was the first time it ran, and it was along Eastern Parkway at that time.
Okay.
And I've seen a couple of photographs, and there are some great photographs of troops, a lot of troops marching down Eastern Parkway back then. And, the history of it was something that dragged me in a little bit. Then working for Army recruiting, I got the recruiters involved. So they marched in the parade. And I was working with a guy by the name of Eddie Cush. He was an iron worker. And he was really a mover and shaker. He was a great guy. And he kind of like reeled me in, So that was about 25 years ago, more than that probably. And you've been involved 25 years too, at least. We used to go down and have meetings down at Borough Hall.
Borough Hall, yeah.
So that got me started. And then after a while, I just looked at these men. They were World War II, Korean War men, from the Jewish war vets, Catholic war vets, you name it. Korea, they were also dedicated to making sure that the Memorial Day Parade was run right, and that we remembered all those men and women who have died
Definitely.
Over all these years. I mean, this goes all the way back to the beginning of our country, right? So the more I got involved, I tried to help them a little bit, and there it is. Here I am a chairman. I've been the chairman for about, 8 or 10 years or something, 9 years. And it's something that I think we all really believe in.
Yes, strongly believe in it. I think we have that common thread from being veterans, and all the veterans, people forget what we've gone through and what we're still going through.
Exactly.
And just to have a a special day to remember. I mean, we as veterans remember, but we want to teach our younger generations of what a veteran means and what they've gone through and how we should honor them. So that's pretty much the message that we put out: remembrance, and not to forget, because sometimes history repeats itself. Yeah. So, but and we try to get the younger generation involved. We go to schools. We support some of the American Legion programs like the Empire Girls, Boys State, Oratorical, and the ROTC of Fort Hamilton. And we have an ROTC from the Bronx also that we participate with them, and we do give some kind of achievement award to the highest ROTC member that's graduating that year. So we're involved, and we try to get the younger generation to know what Memorial Day is about. And as a matter of fact, we get invited to a couple schools in Brooklyn that do Memorial Day and a Veterans Day, and they do such a beautiful job.
Yeah,
the
McKinley.
teachers, McKinley School, and there's another school that we go to also. From kindergarten up, they sing, they perform, just to honor the veterans that day, and it's really a beautiful, touching honor for us.
Yeah, the kids have flags, and they have drawing contests. So it's really a wonderful
They
thing
make
to
posters
do.
for us. And
Want to come this year?
Yeah, you should.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's May 24th. It's a Friday.
24th, Friday?
Yeah, it's
10
early.
a.m.
It's 10 o'clock in the morning, and it's really a wonderful thing. You should come.
Definitely.
All right.
I would be glad to come.
Great,
Yeah.
great.
We also do two ceremonies at Con Edison, one in Brooklyn and one at Irving Place in Manhattan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where we do the ceremony for the veterans. And, Con Edison has a wall of veterans in that building. It's such a beautiful building.
Yeah.
And it has a wall of veterans there. And there's a large population of veterans that work for Con
They
Edison.
had their own American Legion post.
They have,
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Just all Con Edison.
Yeah.
Con Edison,
Uh-huh. Yeah. And so they do a nice, Con Edison really supports the veterans.
Good.
They do a great job for them.
Good.
So the history of the parade, in 2011, we almost didn't have a parade.
Really?
Well, we would have had a parade.
Right.
Connie and I and a couple other people
we
would
would
have marched
have
down
marched with our
Third
flags
Avenue,
down Third
But,
Avenue.
we wouldn't have had any bands.
Watching out for traffic and
Right,
everything.
exactly.
We would have got NYPD would have helped
Help
us out.
us, yeah, definitely.
But we wouldn't have been able to have any bands.
Yeah.
And what's a parade without a band?
Exactly.
So we try and help the high schools that come. We try and defray some of their costs. So we go out and we fundraise, and we got a couple of grants from the New York City Council, which helps us along the way. So, but that's after 2011. Before 2011, we were just kind of, moving around, like getting dimes here, quarters there. So we finally formed a 501c3.
Nice.
So we were able to go out and fundraise and offer people tax deductions.
Yeah.
So a couple of gentlemen from the neighborhood, when they heard that it was only going to be the 3 or 4 of us marching down the parade, they all plunked down $1,000 apiece. Wow. And, we were able to get a couple of bands, and we had our parade. And since then, the parade has really grown. It's just unbelievable. This year we have 16, I think, bands in the parade.
Really?
High school bands, and we have a couple of private, community pipe and drums. We have 7 floats, and each float is designated for a different era. A float is for the Vietnam veterans. We have a float for the Korean War veterans. This year, we're honoring our former state senator, Marty Golden. And way back when, as I was talking about it, through the state, he was a really big supporter of the parade. Actually, that's where we got most of our money from back then, up until 2011.
Yeah.
So, and he's done an awful lot for veterans, right?
The community itself.
Yeah, the community.
Yeah.
So we decided that we wanted to honor him.
Good.
And he's a veteran. I mean, he was in the National Guard. He was a scout.
So was he a veteran? No, I'm just joking.
He was a veteran, yes.
I saw his honorable discharge.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
Proof in the pudding.
And he was a police department.
Yeah. But he's been a great guy. He's been great to us, and so he's our Grand Marshal this year.
Okay, great.
And he and his family are going to lead, the thousands of marches down Third Avenue. And then we decided that since it's the 100th anniversary of the American Legion, I'm a member of the American Legion as well as
As
you.
of me.
Right, that's me.
The Coffee Wilson Post.
Right,
yeah.
exactly.
Now, I've been a member of the Coffee Wilson for a long time.
Really?
Ever since 1992.
Oh my God!
All right.
What was I doing in 1992? I was still in high school.
There you go. All right. My brother was the commander of the post at one time. So, and I was living upstate. I worked at West Point. And I moved back to Brooklyn because I met a woman, Mary Ann, and I married her, and she wasn't moving.
That's all. That it happens every time.
That's right. That's right. So, for me to move back to my neighborhood was a lot easier than for her to move upstate. So we got married in '92, and I became, a member of the Coffee Wilson Post. And I really wasn't active in it because I was working, I had a new family.
Yeah.
I was working at Fort Hamilton. I worked as the public affairs officer for Army recruiting, and then as for the garrison itself. So I really never got involved with it. Then all of a sudden I turned around, and you know as well as I do, I think Tom was talking about it, Tom Trombone, that it was a paper post.
Yeah.
He was just keeping everything going. God bless him.
God bless him,
know.
a good man.
Oh,
my
yeah.
God.
Yeah.
He and Juan Diaz was actually a guest on the show.
Yeah,
so,
I saw it. It was a great show.
Yeah, great
They
show.
had a
Yeah.
great time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now, since Major Diaz has taken it over, Juan Diaz, it's just incredible.
Yeah.
It has bloomed, and a lot of active members, younger members.
Amazingly, yeah.
Younger members too, so it's a real nice post. It's
Even
coming
younger
along
than
real
me.
nice.
So I'm hoping, this year we designated the American Legion as our deputy grand marshal.
Nice.
So, it's 100 years of service to veterans and to their communities. So, we're honored to be able to do that. So they're going to have their own float. It's going to be
Right.
the American Legion family.
Family, right?
And all the American Legion members are going to get on, and we're going to have, there's probably about 8 or 9 very active American Legion posts in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
There used to be a lot more. So I'm trying to, get the troops, gather the troops up, and march with the float. So I know our Coffee Wilson Post is going to lead the
Yeah.
American Legion that morning. So I'm really proud of that. I'm really
My
great.
wife is so excited. She's like, I want to go with you.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Great.
So she'll
awesome.
be there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, good.
All right. It's going to march,
Yeah, they
right?
can
Yeah.
march in the families.
Yeah.
A lot of people bring their children and
Exactly.
family members, so it's great. It's awesome.
No, she's excited.
I'm
I
looking
told her
forward
about
to
it, and afterwards what happens, and if you could touch a little bit on afterwards the ceremony that you guys are going to have.
The memorial service we have in John Paul Jones Park, better known as Cannonball Park, is really a wonderful event. This year we have the 369th Experience. It's a unit. They recreate the music and the sounds of the Harlem Hellfighters,
Yes.
and they were part of the 369th Regiment, and they were in World War I, and they're part of the World War I Commission, and they're sponsored by Coca-Cola or something, but they're going to march in World War I uniforms.
Wow.
And then we're going to set them up in the park, and they're going to be part of the memorial service. Now, the memorial service involves, first we have one of the members of the Clan Erin Pipe and Drum Corps. He's going to be playing bagpipes. And then they're going to be raising the flag, as they do all over the country on Memorial Day.
Yes.
And at that time, members of veteran service organizations are going to place a wreath over in an area in the park, in Cannonball Park. And then the Veteran Corps of Artillery, which is the oldest New York State military unit. They date back to the Revolutionary War. They're going to fire a 21-gun salute in honor of all those who died in service to our country. And then we finish off with 2 young people from the Fort Hamilton High School Marching Regiment, and they play Echo Taps.
Wow.
So if you're in the park and the smoke from the cannon is floating around, if it's the
Yeah.
right kind of a day, and you hear Echo Taps, it's really chilling.
Yeah.
And then we have the 369th Experience. They're going to be part of that program too. They're going to set up next to the stage on their own platform, and they're going to be part of the program. They're going to do a little performance for us. So it's shaping up to be quite an event, something that's going to be special.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, when you mentioned Echo Taps,
Yeah.
I just got this
chill.
chill that went over my whole body.
That's right.
Because every time I hear it when I'm at a veteran organization or something going on, I just get so emotional and teary-eyed and things like that because, of what it stands for.
Right.
Right.
That's right,
And a lot of people don't realize what Echo Taps really stands for.
Right.
you know, and it's tough.
Yeah, we've
Yeah.
lost so many men and women over the years in wars throughout our history,
Yeah.
and it's only right that even if it's just one day, we try and promote it all year round. We have volunteers, God bless them, that go to schools and we talk about it every chance we get. But it's very important to us that we remember all those who paid such a terrible price for our freedom.
Definitely.
Every day, you know, and if we can get people to think about that, I mean, we try and leave that, you know, after the parade when they go home, we try and leave that in their memory, in their DNA that, you know, don't just do it on today. Don't just do it on Memorial Day.
Yeah.
Try and remember it all year round and thank a veteran. I mean, you can't miss some of the older veterans. They're walking around with those hats.
They're all proud to wear their hats.
Yeah.
No, definitely. And every time I see them, I shake their hand and I
yeah.
thank them for their service.
Right, exactly.
You know, it's a big deal. And a lot of those guys are from the Vietnam era where they didn't get that coming home.
No, they didn't.
You know, so they appreciate that when it happens to them now.
Right.
Right.
And it means a lot, you know, because they're getting the love now that they should have got then.
Right.
You know.
And we're doing a good job of it too.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
especially with the younger veterans that are coming home.
Oh yeah.
I mean, across the country, even in New York, people go out to the airport
Yeah.
and welcome them home. So that's very, very important because, you know, when you join the military, you really don't know what you're getting into.
No.
You know, and if you're one of the people, one of the soldiers that have to go to war and face that, you know, you're young when you start. But if you go to war, you come back, you're not a young man or a young woman anymore.
No, you're
You
not.
know, you're touched for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
And anything that we can do with all the other service organizations,
exactly.
you know, the American Legion, and if we
Nobody
could just-
understands that.
Nobody understands
No,
it.
You know,
nobody does.
only if you're a veteran and you've been exposed to that same environment, then you know.
Yeah, but that's
You know.
why we have things like this show
Right.
and things like the Memorial Day Parade, and it's to educate
Exactly.
and to let people know why,
Right.
you know, and you know,
I have to
who
tell
we
you,
are.
Hope for the Warriors. That was a good episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, those guys. They, you know,
Amazing
Nick
guys.
Montini. He knew what he was talking about.
Oh,
boy.
definitely.
You know, they are dedicated men. you
They
know,
are.
and-
They are. And there's a lot of nonprofit organizations that are out there for the veterans
Yep.
that need to be known and things like that. And that's who I enjoy really getting on the show. I love getting veterans on the show. I love getting, you know, organizations on the show that are out there for the veterans. I love, you know, it's just all about being out in the community,
Yeah.
you know.
And
Also-
I'll tell you. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
No, go ahead. I just wanted to mention that also, like the Memorial Day Parade Committee, we did the Patriotism Award, and we always pick someone who has outreach to veterans and has done way and beyond for veterans.
Yeah.
And every day. This year, the award went to Vinny Simpieri,
Okay.
who's
Navy veteran.
a Navy veteran, amazing person, loves this country. There's nothing you could say bad about this
Yeah,
country.
he's
He'll
great.
jump down your throat.
I would love to thank you guys for coming on to this show. I know you guys put out a lot of great information, and hopefully we get a big turnout.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And you can
Thanks
check
very
us
much.
out on our website.
Yep. What's the website?
www.brooklynmemorialdayparade.com.
Perfect. And we'll put that down in the comments, and we'll make sure everybody hears about it.
Great.
Great.
All right. Thank you
Awesome.
very much.
Thank you so
All
much.
right.
Great.
Thank you for tuning in. And until next time, make sure you thank a veteran.